Where to start? Was my job as a project manager in the DoD the best or worst experience of my life? Welcome to the Umbrella Group.
The Umbrella Group.
Let's get into it. But first, please subscribe to this channel for more information on project management. And if this video is helpful, please give me a like. It really helps in more ways than you know. Most importantly, it gives me an indication to continue to give you similar type of content. So thank you in advance. Also, I want to highlight a nonprofit named A Better You. They're out there doing great work in the community. They're focused on assisting with reentry and rehabilitation programs and processes for individuals attempting to reestablish themselves after incarceration. So that's something that I definitely want to shout out them on. And I will include some information in the description on how to donate to that cause if it's something that you're interested in or if that resonates with you. So yeah, let's get into the content. So if you can't tell by the title, in this video I'll be giving you the pros and cons of being a project manager in the Department of Defense, as well as my overall opinion on working as a project manager in the Department of Defense. So for some background, I was a capability developer for the Army, which is a project manager. All right, I served in the Army for 8 years, but that's another story for another video. My time in this position was as a Department of the Army civilian. So as for this video, I will start with the cons associated with working as a project manager for the DoD. So I do want to caveat that this is based on my experience and does not represent all experiences. But the first con that I want to point out is that the position was highly demanding of my time. All right, so this isn't really a con for me. So it wasn't a bad experience, but I know people do care about work-life balance, so I thought I would mention it here. But I often felt that my time was always required, right? So I felt like I needed to always be available to provide support and guidance to the vendors that I was working with, right? So it could have been anything, right? As an example, on the weekends leading up to an event, right, I would take phone calls in preparation for that event to ensure that I had the roster of all the people that were planning to attend the event, to make sure everyone knew where to go, to make sure everyone had the right times associated with showing up and arrivals, check-in process. So it was just highly demanding of my time, such that I always needed to be available to answer those questions. Like I said, it wasn't really a bad thing for me. I didn't associate it with that with like a negative feeling about the position, but I did feel like that it was worth mentioning as a part of the con section, just as respect to people's opinion on work-life balance. So on to the next con. All right, the next con I would say is the travel requirements. So this required me to be away from my family for a significant amount of time. I have, smaller children, and I think the impacts that my absence had on them was something that I noticed. All right, while I was in this position, my son started school. And whenever I was gone, just to be honest, like his behavior reflected me not being in the household. So I think after a while, the travel, took a toll on me, from the standpoint of, you know, noticing that my kids needed me to be around, right? So I was on the road approximately 50% of the year. So it was a significant amount of travel. Um, I think once we get to the pros, you'll see a contradiction, but this one is specific to anyone who may have small children, and just understanding that, travel can impact them and can impact your family dynamics in ways that you don't necessarily intend. All right, and the last con um, that I have identified is travel to remote locations. So there were a couple of trips that had me in the middle of nowhere with very little civilian population or anything. There were a couple of places that I felt like maybe, was ground zero of the zombie apocalypse. Um, so there was no fancy restaurants or things to do in your off time. It was just middle of nowhere. Um, and those trips were not as fun, to be honest. Sometimes you're in the middle. I was in the middle of the desert, uh, uh, but we always made the best out of it, right? So, um, yeah, you go to some bad locations sometime, right? You not every trip isn't gonna be to Vegas or to Florida or to California, right? You're gonna do some trips to some not so pleasant, not so populated, areas um, to conduct events or to do site surveys or whatever brought you there, right? You're just there to do your job, and that's about it. So, and that concludes the cons that I have related to the position. Let's get into the pros. So the first pro that I have listed, and here's where the contradiction comes in, is travel. Right? So I know what you're thinking. I listed it as a con. But for every remote location I visited, I also went to some amazing locations as well. I recognize that people who do not have small children may not see the time away from family as a significant con as well. So I want to ensure that I give all perspectives as it relates to travel. So while in this position, I went to, as I said before, some great places. I went to Spain, I went to Portugal, I went to Germany, I went to Wales, I went to London. Right, I got to experience different cultures, try different cuisines, visit historical sites, and all this in my off time. Obviously, um, I think people also saw those trips, like even my wife at times saw those trips as, me going on vacation. But those trips required long hours. I was working probably 12-hour days on those trips minimum because we only had so much time to execute uh, the task that we set out to do. So we had to take as full advantage of the time that we had at those locations, and we're there for a purpose, right? We're there for a reason. We're not there to travel to do all of those great things that I was able to do. However, in the off time, I made time to go and experience those areas and the locations that I visit. I also experienced was able to visit a lot of great places within the states as well. I actually found out that I really love Ohio. Ohio is actually one of my favorite states to visit. And I would have never found that out, if I hadn't been in this position, right? I don't think I would have ever gone to Ohio, for vacation. But I did go there. Didn't think it was going to be great, but I actually really loved it. So, shout out to anyone from Ohio. All right. So my next pro is the opportunity to work with industry leading professionals. I think this was significant because I was able to work with the best engineers each vendor had to offer, right? So I worked with about 5 or 6 vendors, and they didn't put, the bottom of the barrel vendors or engineers in front of us. They provided us with their best engineers. I had access to their best engineers, which was great for me, right? I was just in the proximity to very talented and intelligent professionals throughout my time at the position. I was able to gain a significant amount of knowledge just due to the access that I had to their engineers. All right, so this also afforded me the opportunity to kind of immerse myself into the technology, which was really paid dividends into the development of myself as a project manager, and also future opportunities that I was able to take advantage of just due to, you know, my access to their engineers. So my next pro was is the exposure that you get to innovative technology. So in many cases, the military is at the cutting edge of innovation. An example is the internet, right? You're watching this video right now over the internet. So yeah, that's right. The military was a part of the internet. The internet actually started as a military government project. So hit that like button if you didn't know that. So dropping facts right now for you all. But I will say that the DoD continues to push the envelope with advanced concepts, and they've come up with some really creative technology just out of the need for innovation to stay relevant, to stay ahead of, you know, enemies and threats, to ensure that, you know, the forces are efficient in what they do. So this gives them a lot of latitude to introduce some unproven concepts into their programs and into their projects. So those opportunities are a lot of fun, and it's something that you will definitely likely have exposure to as a project manager with the DoD. So my final pro is the worldwide recognition that comes with working for the DoD. So in my experience, having a DoD position on your resume does not hurt you at all. There's a certain professionalism and discipline and structure that is associated with the military, and that can give you an edge against the competition whenever you're out there competing for jobs in the marketplace. So, yeah, that wraps up my pros associated with the DoD and being a project manager in that organization. So, from my overall perspective, I have a big fat 0. You hear me? 0 regrets. I have 0 regrets during my time as a project manager with the DoD. I think it was completely worth it. It definitely helped propel my career as a project manager, and I think it can help propel your career as a project manager as well. And that's all I have for today. All right. Hopefully this video was informative. Please subscribe to the channel for more content. We are the Umbrella Group. Please leave a like, and also comment if you would like a video about how to get a job as a project manager with the DoD. So until next time, guys, be classy.